All right, so we're here today replacing our screens, and we've got all the materials that we need. I've got a blade. You can use a screwdriver to dig the old stuff out, or I've got a little hook tool that I'm using that is a little nice to use too. The kit that I got came with this cool little roller thing. It's got a concave side and a convex side. So the concave is what you're going to use to first insert it, and then the convex will help you really press that rubber tubing down in place. So
concave and convex. Might want to define.
Oh, swoopy in and swoopy out. So it's just rounded outward.
I think concave is caved in.
Yeah.
That's how I remembered it as a kid.
Yeah, and so the concave going in like that helps to just go around the tubing so it doesn't just fall off. Once it's in the channel, you can use this one to really press it down. But if you try that at first, it's just going to fall off to the sides.
Okay.
So that's all that is. So on the topic of the rubber tubing, the kit that I got came with this giant thick stuff, which is just not going to work for our screens at all. So I measured what was coming out of ours, and I got it at about 100 thou, so 0.1 inches. I was not able to find anything that small, so I ordered the 120 thou, 0.12 inches, and I'm kind of struggling to make it work. It's using a lot more force than normal, but it is fitting in there, so I'm going to go ahead and continue with that. So the first thing that we're going to do is remove the old screen. Again, I'm going to use my little hook tool. A screwdriver is going to work just fine there. I'm going to find the factory edge of one of the rubber tubing. I'm just going to tug it so it comes out of that channel. Usually you can just pull and it'll just keep pulling out. If your tubing is in really bad shape, it might break apart. You might have to kind of keep fussing with it to get all the little bits out. But I am lucky today that it's coming out in one nice little piece. So set that aside. We're not going to try to reuse that. It's just going to be a nightmare. We definitely want to replace it. Now our screen can come right out. And now we can use this for a template. You want to cut the piece a bit bigger than that. We've already got a piece here. So a ½ inch extra around is just fine. We're going to trim it at the end so it's going to look nice and neat. But you want to make sure to have extra material around. I'm going to go ahead and place that over roughly center. Now what I want to do is try to line up these long lines. I want to get this get it so it looks nice and flat, so all the rectangles are parallel and perpendicular where they need to be. Otherwise it's just going to kind of drive you crazy when you see that.
No one's going to see it. All
right, no one's going to see it. But I'm going to try to get it right anyway. So we don't have to worry about getting the tension on it right away. When we do that final press in, it's going to tug that material nice and tight. So we want to get it reasonably taut, and that's all we need to do. So I'm going to start in a corner that makes it the easiest. And I'm just going to press it in, again, using my concave side to support this material. I'm going to press it in. I'm not going to worry about how far it's going in really right now. I just kind of want to get it in place. And again, I'm using a lot more force than normal. If I had the proper size rubber tubing, it would be a fair amount easier.
Now, in terms of the proper size, if it's hard to find for us, it may be hard to find for other RVers out there. Like, this is probably more for a residential window. And he just ordered this off Amazon, was it?
Yes, it was.
But once it's in, and using a too big size is just a matter of more hassle to do it rather than, like, appropriateness for the end project, right?
Yeah, exactly. Once it's in there, it's going to hold fine. So when I came to the corner, I just went around the corner. Sometimes it's with the tubing being a little bit too large here, it's a little difficult to manage. So I'm just going to cut a relief cut there, and then it'll be a little easier for the final press in to get that completed.
And then whoever has to replace this next gets to blow up the thing in pieces.
Yeah, but talking handful of pieces. I've had some screens where, yeah, I've had some screens though that it breaks every like 1 inch or so, and it's just a pain. So as you get to where this side is tacked in and this side's not, this is where you want to make sure it's reasonably taut. And you'll be able to redo it if you all of a sudden realize it's not tight enough. You can peel this up and try it again. Until you get that final trim in place, nothing is fully set. So you can see my hand shaking. That's just because I'm using a lot of downforce. Again, normally I would not have to do that. It would just slip in pretty easily.
The takeaway here, though, is if you can't find exactly small enough for what you need, you're fine. But you might need to stretch your hand after.
Yeah, and if you measure that channel, you don't want the tubing the same size as the channel. It's actually going to be just a touch wider. It is a hollow tubing, meant to conform, of course, and I'm having a little trouble with this curve. It's just not wanting to go in. So I'm just going to feed that down. Just going to go a little deeper to tack that in place here. And you can see already that our screen is fairly tight now. There's not a lot of extra material, and it'll cinch the rest of that in a bit, but I don't feel like I need to redo anything here. And we get to the end, of course, we just trim it.
So there's no overlap with the start point.
Right. So now the fun part. Now you get to actually pull that final tension. Make sure everything's lined up where you want. Oh, I got a piece that popped out. Since I'm pressing so hard, I'm manually kind of rolling this through just to give myself a little more control. So here's where you switch to your convex side, and what that's going to do is give you more pressure right in the middle to really shove that down. And you'll notice that as it gets really deep, the screen kind of stands up on edge, and that kind of is a good clue that it's down all the way. I know it's going to be hard to see on the video, but you can actually kind of watch the screen getting tucked into that channel.
Oh no, it shows up just, oh, it's the tucked in. I'm saying it shows it standing up as you go. You're dead.
Yeah, it's getting in there.
And again, if you're using the right size tubing, this is going to go a lot smoother, a lot easier. You're not necessarily going to have to use your body weight.
Yeah.
Or manually roll it with your fingers.
Nice thing is, though, once I get this in here, it is going to get stuck in there really well. Now you want to be careful not to get too much tension on here. You can actually start to warp the frame, especially on a larger one like a screen door. Here we've got a pretty small piece. I'm not too worried about that, but we seem to have good tension on there. And my curve came out again, so I'm going to switch back to the concave to get this pressed in. And
but once it's in, it'll be in.
Yeah, once it's in.
He's just had it temporarily in for the first round. Things go a lot easier when you use the right size. However, as with a lot of things with RV, you kind of have to MacGyver some things because not everything is made for RV shapes and sizes. And also, our RV is 20 odd years old, is it?
Yeah, almost 25.
So, you know, things change. And what was available 25 years ago might not be available now. So you kind of have to learn to go with it.
So I've got a spot right here that's really causing me a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really carefully use a screwdriver to try to press that in. Now I want to be careful not to hit that screen because I don't want to make a hole in my new screen. So again, this is not normal. This is just something to try to get this to be completed and stay in place. And I can feel it slipping in when I use this. And I think we're pretty good there. Now we got a nice, good adhesion there. You can see this corner popping up a bit. I'm just going to do the same thing right at the very ends here. So this is probably taking about twice as long as normal, just because I'm dealing with it in this odd manner. But really, I'm going to move on because I can always press that in some more and fuss with it. I'm going to show you how to cut it today. So at the very end, when you're happy with this, again, check your tension, make sure there's not a lot of rippling and you don't want to have to redo anything. Now I can do this final trim. I'm going to use a razor blade, and I want to put it in an angle, and it seems pretty easy to cut. And you don't need to cut it super close. You can leave just a little bit. I like to saw it just to start, and then just pull across. Sawing action works when you hit some resistance, just to kind of help get through that.
So you can usually bank on about 5 minutes per window this size, eh?
Yeah.
We're at 12 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, we're taking a lot of extra time, but that's all right. We're getting it done. And,
Personally, I don't like seeing the tutorials where everything goes absolutely perfect, because then if something doesn't go perfect for you, you're like, well, now what? So now you can see, you know, how you can get around it. And
yep, and I see I've got a section in here that's peeling up, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that. But you see the basics on how to do it, and like I said, I'll use my screwdriver to really get it in there, and that's how you do it. So like and subscribe.